And you will lose your best talent. The people who want to be able to learn how to do this, they will go to organizations that will support that learning. So AI is not just a technology problem that you have. It's going to be a human talent retention issue if you don't get your act together on this.
Yeah, and it's kind of paradoxical in that sense, because in order to get that increase in speed that you need to stay competitive, you actually have to slow down at the beginning to give people time to upskill and to learn it and to build these relationships and to build the trust and communicate this with your team and have those difficult conversations. And a lot of times that even requires your leadership team to learn how to have those difficult conversations because they haven't been using those muscles for the last 20 years or so. Your business's success depends on relationships with customers, relationships with employees, and relationships with stakeholders. What do they all have in common? They're all human. Because no matter if your business is B2B or B2C, it's really H to H, human to human. Welcome to the Human Connection Podcast. I'm your host, Carl Ponto. Each week, I bring you stories, insights, and practical advice from experts that you can apply to your growing company and daily life. This week, I'm super excited to connect with Charlene Li. She is an expert on business transformation strategy and disruptive leadership, and the New York Times bestselling author of 6 books. She has released her 7th book, Winning with Generative AI, in March 2026. Charlene has worked with hundreds of top companies ranging from Adobe to Southwest Airlines. She has spoken at events like the World Economic Forum, TED, and South by Southwest. She is a graduate of Harvard College and Harvard Business School and was named one of the most creative people in business by Fast Company. Congrats on being named one of the most creative people by Fast Company, and welcome to the Human Connection Podcast.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. I'm really excited to talk with you about this because the last year or so has just been a cavalcade of companies getting on the AI hype train and not getting the results they want because of bungling the adoption or the the rollouts and all these sort of things that are not leading to the results they want. And so you seem to have an amazing book that it recently launched about 3 ways that you can win with AI. And so I'd love to hear more about those ways and how companies can actually get the value that is promised by AI in the competitive landscape we're in these days.
Sure. Thank you for the opportunity. Yeah, the book is called Winning with AI, the 90-Day Blueprint for Success. And the idea is we wanted to write a book because people kept asking this fundamental question. How do we create value with AI? We're not seeing it. Like, where is that promised land? How do we get there? And we lay out week by week, over 12 weeks, over 90 days, how to do this. And the first idea is, first of all, that you need to use AI to support your business strategy. You have a business strategy. Now figure out how to use AI to support it. This is not about having a separate AI strategy. It is not a technology that you just are looking at in isolation. It has to be done in the context of your strategy. The second idea is you have to go fast because that is the only moat. We have this great quote from our friend Vikram Mahidar. He says, speed is the new moat. Because everyone has access to the same technology. Anybody with a browser can use it. Everyone has access to all the knowledge that's in these AIs. You have data that's amazing and unique about you and your customer. And the question here is, can you adopt the technology, but also how can you adapt your organization the way it does work? And then the third thing I would say is to maximize that speed, to be able to accomplish all of these things. You need to have the leadership and the strategy, the leadership and the culture, as well as the tools and the governance and decision-making guidelines to be able to execute on this. And so the book goes into great detail how to develop these building blocks to support your use of AI to support your strategy. So the book lays out all those different aspects. And I think the way to win, the first and number one thing is to make sure you're using AI in a very strategic way.
Yeah, it does seem like most companies that have been trying to use it are just slapping it into anywhere they can and hoping that something sticks and not really, they're trying to go almost too fast. And you did see that speed is a moat, but going too fast and not have a strategic alignment with it or strategic focus with it, and also not realizing that they need to have that leadership, kind of other relationships, and all the kind of the governance and the clear understanding by the teams of how it's going to be, how that's going to impact them, and what that change is going to look like, and kind of managing the people around it, and how it's going to, like, they're not having all those prerequisites set up. They're just trying to throw it on and see what works, and then are
Yeah.
surprised when it doesn't.
Yeah, because the problem is that I think the major problem is that you look at it as a technology. You're looking at AI clearly as a technology. I'm going to give it to my CIO and have them install ChatGPT. That is not going to get you the results. If you take a leadership approach to this and say, how are we going to use AI to solve our biggest problems? I saw this one organization, they had 7 strategic objectives, for example. And the first 6 were the usual suspects, grow business, whatever. And the 7th one was use AI to accomplish the first 6. And that's the right way to be thinking about AI. If you treat it only as a technology and not as a strategic initiative, you're going to get very tactical results. And when you think about how is it going to impact our strategy, what are the people that we need, how is it going to impact our workforce and how we do work? So HR is involved. How is it going to, what are the decisions and guardrails we need to be able to make decisions around this? So it's involving, and from the very beginning, not in a reactionary way, all the people in risk and legal and finance. It's looking at saying, do we have the skills? If we don't have the skills, how are we going to acquire them, either through internal development or through hiring and contractors? And then technology, you don't have the technology because you probably don't have the people who can build AI inside your organization. Who are the vendors we're going to work with, or how are we going to get that talent to be able to build these things ourselves? So it's multi-layered here. And if you only look at it as a technology approach, you're going to miss a lot of those other aspects that would keep you from being able to use it in a very significant value-added way.
Yeah, 100%. And it's something that and also when you're trying to do that big of a change at an organizational level, you have to really understand and have that strong culture where people are going to feel safe to bring up all these, like, the questions and raise the issues and call out the potential pitfalls as you're trying to implement this on a strategic level, because it's such a fundamental, it's like raising a whole house up to put some new piece, like, thing underneath it. There's gonna be a lot of things that are creaking and grinding, and if you don't have it all sound beforehand, then all you're going to do are reveal all the problems that existed before that you were kind of ignoring, but now you can't because you're trying to lift the whole thing up by the foundation. And a lot of those underlying problems are people related, personnel related, and there's like the lack of communication or lack of trust or lack of, again, like, ownership of certain initiatives, and then, like, governance and boundaries, all those other things between departments. And so if you're super siloed and no one's really communicating or collaborating well, then it's almost impossible to get this rollout on such a strategic level to work again, with that speed you need to stay competitive.
Right. One of the things that I'm often reminded is that there is so much humanity in this whole process. And it's a reason why there is so much fear and anxiety also as well, because we haven't done a good job in explaining to people, AI is coming, we all know that, and here's how we're looking at it as an organization. Here is what the impact is going to be on you. And here's how we're going to be successful together in that space. And so in the absence of that conversation, in the absence of a clarity on how we're going to use AI as an organization, people are filling in the gaps. And their imaginations are not far off, because they're seeing people saying, we're laying off 40% of our people because of AI. And they're wondering, well, what's going on with my company? Are people making plans to replace me with AI? So I think a healthier conversation is to say, this is what our roadmap is. This is what we're doing for our strategy. This is how we're using AI. While I can't promise you that you're going to have a job tomorrow, and I can't say whether AI is going to take your job or not, because we've never been able to do that. We've never historically been able to do that. But I can promise you that we're going to give you the tools, that I will give you the training, that I will give you the time to become fluent with AI so that you can do your job in the best way possible with AI. And if for whatever reason you may have to leave the organization, you'll be the best equipped to be out there to be competitive. And so that is something I can promise you, but you can only do that if you truly mean that. And you are going to do that. Many organizations don't give people the tools. If they do, they don't give them the training. Or if they do, they don't give them the time, the space to learn, to try things, to experiment, to fail. And that's the only way you can learn. And instead we say, okay, sure, you have AI, but get back to work. We've got all these goals we have to meet. And you're just going to keep them away. And they're sitting there going, oh my goodness, there is this amazing tool and you're not letting me use it. This is not helping me. And you will lose your best talent. The people who want to be able to learn how to do this, they will go to organizations that will support that learning. So AI is not just a technology problem that you have. It's going to be a human talent retention issue if you don't get your act together on this.
Yeah, and it's kind of paradoxical in that sense, because in order to get that increase in speed that you need to stay competitive, you actually have to slow down at the beginning to give people time to upskill and to learn it and to build these relationships and to build the trust and communicate this with your team and have those difficult conversations. And a lot of times that even requires your leadership team to learn how to have those difficult conversations, because they haven't been using those muscles for the last 20 years or so. So they're not great at the actually like leading people and building that trust. And so it's revealing a lot of the shortcomings of companies and their leadership that have existed for a long time and just haven't had the outside pressure to kind of shine a light on them and reveal how much it's actually costing the company. They've just kind of limped along or kind of failed forward. And now that is no longer working, because in order to get what they want with these AI adoption and get this new technology on a strategic level that actually works, the buck stops with them. They have to be the ones that change first in order to get the rest of their team on board. And so it's interesting how the overall pursuit of like efficiency and speed and technology is now necessitating them to slow down and work on themselves and invest in their teams more. Otherwise, they're just going to be continuing to break their businesses at faster and faster speeds instead of accelerating them in the way they're expecting to by adding AI.
Yeah, you talked a little bit earlier before about psychological safety, and there is a tremendous need for safety in this space because people are so fearful. In the United States, it's only 39% of people who believe that AI is going to be more beneficial than harmful. So only 39%. And just to give a contrast, in China, it's 83% of people believe AI is going to be more beneficial than harmful. So we're starting from a place of fear and anxiety when it comes to AI. And you add that into the organization where you have leadership that is not that comfortable with uncertainty, with things not being perfect. And you have to have this, you want to create this area of psychological safety, of actual safety, to be able to experiment with these things, because it is so fearful. It is just a downward spiral when it comes to AI then. And so I think you're right. AI becomes this forcing function that says, how are we going to approach this as an organization? And I do believe that AI is not a technology problem. It is absolutely a leadership problem. And because it is this bright, shiny object of AI and technology, we go, oh my goodness, let's go play with it. Let's use this technology. And we forget all these other human aspects of it that have to be there in order for AI to be successful in your organization, to use it to create value. It's one of the reasons why I so believe and so strongly believe that leaders, other than your IT leaders, need to be on that initial team. and especially people from your HR and communications teams, because they're the ones who have to figure out, how do we talk to people about AI? How do we build that trust? How do we get over all of this fear and anxiety? And in particular, how do we help people become AI fluent, not just literate, but fluent, where it becomes second nature? Because that's the only way we're going to get to the point where AI becomes a key part of the way we do business.
Yeah, and I think it's also understanding the, and I'm sure this varies by organization to organization, but just the understanding how to use it in a way that is enhancing the human instead of replacing, like thinking, or kind of, you're not trying to offload the human element of the work, or replacing the, like, thinking or reasoning, but it's about augmenting what your people are already doing to make them better at it. And I think that comes with that fluency. But like you said, even if the leadership themselves outside of the kind of IT department don't really know how to use it either, because so few people have actually, like I said, had the time to actually sit down and learn how to use this properly, because they're just trying to go so fast, that their implementation, if they implement it the wrong way and are using it in a way that's not augmenting people but trying to replace them, then they're going to end up with longer term issues cropping up, because they're not going to have the sort of workforce or the infrastructure of understanding of these tools to maintain the speed very long. So yeah, they might be a little quicker out of the gate, but then they're going to be surpassed by companies that have had that chance to experiment, have a chance for the people to get fluent at it, and also are using it in ways that makes their people better, instead of just trying to save on headcount to automate everything. And it's something that, like, I like what you said about it. It's a shiny object right now, and it's super hyped up, and people are really excited about it. But it seems like with all these like kind of tech hype cycles, eventually the shine comes off the apple, and you're kind of left with an unpleasant reality with it, because all the flaws and downsides start to show when it's not so shiny anymore. And it's frustrating sometimes to see how the same kind of cycle when it comes to the tech hype keeps happening, and people haven't seemed to learn and predict or kind of foresee the realities that's behind all the smoke and mirrors and like flashy presentation. So I mean, this one also just seems like the kind of more impactful than like the Web3 or the kind of crypto sort of stuff that happened before, but it's a very similar cycle that happens with these sort of things. And so it's when you're unlike those, though, this has a much more foundational, like you said, impact on the way businesses operate and the way people interact with it than the first two. So it's something that if you don't understand that cycle, or kind of what's at risk by just chasing the shiny object, then you're going to have the downside is going to be a lot greater than I think the previous two kind of hype cycles we've seen in the last few years.
Right. Yeah. And again, I think the Web3 and blockchain and all those other tools were very isolated. There are very specific use cases, and the number of people who were actively engaged in those conversations was much smaller. AI is one of those things where anybody with a browser is using it. And if they're not using it at work because they don't have access to the tools, they're definitely using it, or at least familiar with it in their personal lives. And so there's a lot of research that says AI is actually being used more in our personal lives than at work for lots of different reasons. And so I think we as leaders are facing this really interesting time right now, where there's this pressure. I think it was a pressure cooker that's been building up over the past year or so, where you have to do something with AI. And we're trying a few things here and there, but nothing seems to be gaining traction. And now the pressure is really there to show, as I put into quotes, ROI on AI. What's our return on AI? And I get asked this question all the time. So what value is AI? And I go, there's no value in AI in isolation. It's like electricity. What's the value of electricity? It's you using electricity. It's you using AI to accomplish something that is of value to you that really matters. So I keep coming back to, if you want to find value, start with your own work. Get yourself fluent as a leader. What are the biggest problems you have right now? And every leader worth their salt is doing something important. And they have their 3 or 5 things that they're trying to tackle, these wicked problems. Figure out how to use AI to help you address those problems, how to achieve those objectives better or faster or cheaper or even safer. And then, and somebody would ask, well, how do I do that? How do I figure out how to use AI? And I go, this is the meta answer to this. Use AI to tell you how to use AI. So you can put in the question into AI, like, I have this problem. How can I use AI to help me start addressing that? And it'll give you some starting points and ideas. And it's that fluency, that ability to bring it every single day into the work that you do. And as a leader, I also recommend this one little tactic is when you're sitting there and working with people, you need to set the expectation that we're all going to use AI. Again, this is assuming you have access to the tools, but ask people, we're having this meeting now. How did you use AI to prepare for this? I'm curious. And then say, well, my expectation is that you use AI. Let's figure out how to do that. And it also helps for you to bring your own examples. Well, this is how I use AI to prepare for this meeting, to help me gather information, to help me scope down the options that we have, to help us make better decisions. So the more that you can have AI be part of that regular conversation, the better off you'll be.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for connecting with me today, Charlene. If you enjoyed this episode of the Human Connection podcast, please like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Want to learn more about myself or Charlene? Check out the links in the show notes. And remember, no matter if your business is B2B or B2C, it's really H to H, human to human. Happy connecting.